Welcome everyone to the Dharma talk. Feel free to listen with your body and your heart. I intentionally did not prepare anything for you today because I wanted to, first of all, there are just so many Dhamma talks I could give on the energy body. And I wanted to stay open to what I was sensing. Everyone has different sort of priors. Some people have expectations about what an energy body is that may or may not correspond to how we're actually using it in this practice. And so sometimes so I think my intention was to start sort of as broadly as possible and to hone in on the specifics over these 30 minutes. In the ancient Buddha's, the ancient Indian tradition of energy involves sensitive areas, areas where the mind is able to sort of rest in a vigilant sort of sensitivity. There's no other really great word for it. And so the chakra system began, its early development in ancient India as corresponding to sort of bodily centers of a lot of sensitivity. So the groins, etc., the inner digestive fire, the ani, the solar plexus, the breath, the heart, these core areas in the body of sensitivities and different types of sensitivities. They have different temperatures, they invoke different colors, they have different feels to them, they have different ways in which they block up and bind, and they have different ways in which they unblock. And so the modern age approach to the chakras is as if they're a thing, as if they're a substance. It's something you learn about and then try and recognize in your experience. But the ancient Indian perspective and the Buddha's is closer to the ancient sort of Hindu perspective. In the ancient Hindu perspective, you actually went into a chakra and you invited a deva or divinity to come into it. It wasn't already there. You invited a color to come to it. It wasn't already there. It's a world of what I was calling in my guided meditation of plasticity. Do you all know what I mean when I say plasticity? It's you actually use your perceptions to modify a way of feeling in that energetic sensitivity. Does that make sense to you all? That it's something you modulate with your own behavior. And it's not something that you're told to go find somewhere. But it's something that you use your power of creativity. We have, like I said, we have very little. If you really think about it, a lot is already put into place in life. We think we're making choices about what schools we're going to and what we're going to do in life, but a lot is already sort of, set in place, in the sort of wheel of causation, of dependent co-arising. There are very complex factors that are already involved. Scientists are just catching a glimpse that the body makes decisions even before the mind thinks it's coming up with a decision, like whether we like someone or not, or whether we want to do something or not do something. The body, at a very deep level, we're already sort of predetermined before the mind, but the mind will want to put its stake in the moon and say, I came here first. I invented this whole thing. But a lot is really already in play. But we do have this incredible amount of creativity in perception. And that was really what I wanted to open you all up to, of play and plasticity, to really feel into the breath experience. and the non-anatomical experience of the breath, to energize a sense of presence there, and to invite new ways of perceiving that energetics. Really, the process of meditation is a layered approach of increasing subtlety in our sensitivity. So we use so much thought in relating to our body. Like, this is my, arm. I can hit it, I can feel prickliness and heat when I hit it. But how is that really different, that feeling there, than if I do this on the other side? There's a certain uniformity at a base layer, and yet I've convinced myself one's right and one's left, and it's true in a certain sense, in an objective materialist sense, it is true hitting here. But at that deep layer, what am I really feeling at the deepest layer is a very similar, type of heat, sensitivity, vibrational sensitivity, rapidity, frequency, vibrational, something's very similar between the two experiences. And this is really insightful, really, really insightful to sort of allow that anatomical sense. We start relaxing our concepts that I'm a limited body. When we're a baby, this takes us into our can I say that word properly?
Developmental?
Why can't I say that? Developmental? Is that right? Oh my God.
Developmental, yeah.
Anyway, it takes you into sort of a developmental? Kind of a weird word. Okay. I have to think of something else. It's kind of a reverse evolution into back to when we were children, when we were just sort of open-eyed to the world, okay? And there's just, our sense of presence was just this floating cloud of perceptions. We didn't really have a sense of inside and outside. And that remains our experience in sleep. It remains our experience sometimes when we're groggy, when we're waking up, but we call that groggy. Oh, I'm not quite to myself, I need my coffee. You just have no sense of inside and outside. It's normal. It's not an abnormal state. And that state needs feeding and enlivening and rejuvenating because it brings a certain freshness, and there's creativity, and there's hidden joys and energies in there that we have created divisive spaces in our space that we call here. And we have thrown out a world out there and a world back here and ripped our reality apart. And it falls asunder every time we fall asleep, and it comes back together, but it happens in milliseconds, and we've forgotten about that. And meditation is opening up to this beautiful world of the in-between and showing us the complexities of, our development from children to adults. We just do it in milliseconds. We don't even know it. But it's a creative, loving sense of presence that is undivided and open. And I don't know whether, everyone has all these theories. Is it when we saw our image in the mirror for the first time and we saw, oh, I'm this small material thing and it can hurt? Is it the limitation that I'm because I feel vast. I love this headless way, where you open up your arms like a child and you can hold the room in your arms. I mean, that's my first person perspective. I am large, I am big, and energetically, when I close my eyes and I don't remember you're in the room and I'm just feeling, where is there an edge? There is no edge. That is appamada. That is limitlessness in perception. And I can hold that limitlessness in my perception and energize that with the breath and hold it and suspend with it into a continuity of mindfulness and energetics. That's what I'm calling energetics. You understand? It's just a perception, but it's a real perception. And it's a powerful one. It can really help because we feel limited a lot. I am not worthy for this, and we put ourselves in our little box of a body, and we think our breath is just these two little pinholes we're breathing through. What a limitation. Buddha is saying, get a little more creative. Come on. Open up your minds, open up your hearts. He's saying, open up with the breath. He's not saying close down with the breath in perception. Challenge it. Think about it from all its rich perspectives and tapestry, and let it speak to you. Let it open you up. Just open to it and let it bring you into a different type of reality. I mean, in the Itivuddhaka, in one of his teachings, not to get too technical, the Buddha talks about an evolution, but it's an evolution of transcendence and inclusion. It's not an evolution of transcendence and exclusion. We have transcendence and exclusions, if you're following what I'm saying, model of awakening called the fetters, where you go through an awakening process and you actually drop things out of your mind. You literally, Sakaya Ditti, you're like, ownership of this body view or personality view, identity view sort of falls away. Clinging to rites and rituals, certain doubts fall away on the first awakening. Things do fall away, but that's a transcendence and exclusion principle where things just leave the mind. Like certain behaviors I did as a child, I don't know, picking my nose, I don't do anymore unless I have a Kleenex in my hand maybe, but there are certain things we did as a child we don't do as an adult, and in the same way, you start dropping certain behaviors before, you did before meditating and awakening, and then you just don't do later. So that's what I'm calling transcendence and exclusion. But there's a way of thinking about the meditative process and awakening as a transcendence and an inclusion. And so we transcend the limitations of this physical body as a limited sense, because associated with that is shame and I'm not good enough and fear. And fear is a big one. We are such sensitive creatures. It's, as I wrote in my email to you yesterday, there's this sense that I'm too open, I'm too vulnerable, I need to step back somehow. And how do we step back? We mentally rip this world apart between you and me. We create a gulf between us and the world, and we step back even further with thought. The more we create a fortress of thought in our minds, and it takes a lot of mental activity to keep the world torn asunder. And it's actually a relaxation to heal with metta, to heal with wisdom, to heal with the breath, to heal those divisions, and to come back developmentally back to that sense of being an open sensitivity. And so I'm inviting you to do something quite dangerous, and the Buddha is inviting you to do something quite dangerous. It's to temporarily set aside. You are a breathing being. We are limited in this sense. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying the perception is not helpful. I'm saying the perception is limiting. So transcend the kaya. The Buddha gave 3 markers in the meditative practice. The first marker is just waking up to the science of this body, that there are physical laws at play. I'm feeding it, taking care of it, I have responsibilities. Yes, all that is true. But we can also transcend it with rupa. When the Buddha defined it as the 4 elements, which are just ways of perceiving and sensitizing and deepening our ability to sense subtleties in our present moment awareness. And so we can do that through earth element, we can do that through the sense of solidity, we can do that through air element, through the sense of movement and pressure and fluidity, flowing and channels of energy. We can do that through fire and heat and temperature, and we can do that through certain, true techniques that kind of work universally, like I gave in the guided meditation today, of earth sinking and rising naturally into the fullness of the, upliftment of air element and suspension there. And so these are just sort of universal expressions for the jhana practice, for the samadhi practice. So I want to remind you all that the Buddha taught the Noble Eightfold Path, and at the pinnacle of the Noble Eightfold Path, the highest expression, there's one of the factors of the Noble Eightfold Path in which you are practicing all other seven. In other words, you only have to think about one thing and you're doing the other seven. You're doing the full expression of the Noble Eightfold Path, and that is Samma Samadhi. And gosh, we did ourselves harm by saying right concentration, but I myself still say that every once in a while. It is not a limited point. It is not the limitation. Ekaggata is a factor, but ekaggata also means lookout point. It's that connected sense where you're at a resting point in your breath body, but you're also sensitive to the whole breath body at the same time. It's not an exclusion. It's an inclusion. There are very few things that get excluded from the experience. This is more about opening up to the fullness of presence through a relaxed sense and continuing to challenge any collapse of that perception. And it will happen because we're so used to collapsing in our perception that I'm small. I'm this little object. And this is an invitation to open back up and sustain and hold that openness and to live from that openness, to even bring that into your relationships, into your world, that sensitivity, without a need to feel shameful about that sensitivity as a story of having been hurt and having to protect, but being able to share a wound openly and to heal in the open. So, so the evolution now is from an inclusion that we do have these physical limited bodies, and that we can transcend that through the breath practice to develop our sensitivities to the rupa body, the form body, a more perfected body. And so we are practicing jhanas when we recognize this before we even have to attain jhana. You don't even have to worry about the jhana. You just have to be open energetically to being a sensitive, open experience. And the jhana will come from your, initially from your mental attention to that and your seclusion from too much thinking. But this will quiet down conceptual thinking because there's so much sensitivity and subtlety and beauty there. Your mind is going to be happy. It has what it's need. It's not in a state of lack. If you sensed anything from my guided meditation today, any sense of beauty or presence, did you notice your mind was not thinking so much? Did you notice how quiet your thoughts were? And so when you sustain that in quiet, in your own practice, it will quiet those thoughts down. So the definition of the first jhana was secluded from, mental defilements of the hindrances and things like that. Oh, I need this. Oh, I don't want that. That's the divided, ripped asunder world of out there, and I'm over here. I have to protect this and this. There's wealth over here, and I need to bring this wealth over here. And this, just so much work. So when that quiets down and we open up, and we're full, we have everything we need right here in this breath. When we really feel that and experience that, we are ready to start evaluating. We use evaluation and presence in that evaluation of these four elements to keep it going, to keep that. And the air element does sort of suffuse and penetrate everywhere, but you can use, other elements as well to sort of get you into that sense of presence and grace and upliftment. And any amount of that is enough. Any amount of that for me is the first jhana, if you can sustain it. It's not a difficult cake to cut or to bake, rather, I should say. It's just a sense of having compassion for parts of the bodily experience that feel cut off or heavy. But that is an energetic experience. So I don't want you to think that the jhana or that energetic openness is the only experience. If you come to your meditation with a feeling like you're hot sand or a lump of wet earth, muddy and sticky, and you just can't get out, and your heart feels sticky, or something feels dry, and that is an energetic experience. That's a story, yes. There's a story there that's maintaining that experience. But if you can really open up to it and fully experience it, just like the experience of pain in the right arm and pain in the left, it's fundamentally the same. Energetics is where we unify the experience again. You can take that even into a Vedana practice or a mindfulness of feeling practice, and you can start to see that, and this is challenging maybe for some of you, that the experience of pain can be very similar to the experience of pleasure at a deep layer. And they almost kind of unite at a certain neutrality. It's just vibrations, and the rest is story, images, and how we orient that story, whether we like it or don't like it. But we're ultimately dealing with the same fabric of experience. This is what I'm calling energetics, the energy body. This is what we're opening up to, because there's deep, deep, deep wisdom there. The path comes from that. And when the path is just flowing and the wisdom is just flowing, we're open to this energetic experience in every meditation, in every interaction. It's a relational experience. Energetics is relationality, because it's always in contact with something, and it's always modulating itself and changing and flowing with whatever's happening, and it's never cut off. There's never two pieces to it. When it's always a whole experience, and it's a healthy feeling experience. So it's healthy for the brain, it's healthy for the heart, it's healthy, for your spiritual development. Everything will sort of flow from your ability to really open up to this experience. And so that's why I am such a big 4 elements meditation teacher. I always drill down on the 4 elements. My favorite sutta is the Chulahati Patipodama Sutta, which is the small elephant print sutta. And Sariputta just really drills down that awakening is just like a direct line. He's like, there are 4 noble truths. He says, you only have to focus on one of them. You don't have to focus on all 4 at the same time. He says you can even choose the first one, which is the noble truth of suffering. There is suffering. And how do you do that? Well, there's 5 aggregates. These 5 aggregates are prone to clinging, and they're prone to suffering. Clinging is suffering. Suffering is clinging. And so you can focus on any 5 of the 5. The first one is rupa, this experience of presence right here. It can be, like I said, hard, hot sand sometimes, or mud can feel awful. Focus in on that suffering and notice that in that rupa there are 4 elements. There's just earth element, heaviness. There's just fire element. There's just water element. There's just air element, and maybe space and consciousness or other elements you might notice, but that's all that's happening in that suffering. It's impersonal, it's universal, it's constantly changing, it's rapidly changing, it's even flowing, and what you thought was painful can even be felt as pleasurable if you can balance out and understand these elements and find the pleasantness within the balance of those 4 elements through the breath meditation. And from there we can develop liberation from suffering and the end of the path. And it's a beautiful teaching by Sariputta. Absolutely beautiful. It's very direct, and it's one that I've always found to be very useful and I come back to over and over. So transcend, the Buddha, just transcend and include this physical body. Think non-anatomically. non-scientifically. Think creatively. It doesn't follow the scientific laws of the kaya, the body. In ancient Hinduism, they use the word sarira in Sanskrit, which is related for the word body. But that again, that word sar, it's like essence. It kind of means essence, this bodily essence. And in when you're working with the energetic body, it's not a thing. Desubstantialize it. Play with it. It's a plasticity. It's your playground. It's your laboratory. Enjoy. Or that's, I need a better image because people don't play in laboratories, I'm sure. They probably have to be very careful they don't blow something up. But,
Spontaneously combust, right?
combust the whole. So yes, play with be creative, play with it, and ask what other people's images that are working with them, that they're playing with right now. Ask your friends, about what's working for them when they're joyful. I mean, how are you relating to your joy? How do you sustain it? When does it go away? What does it feel like? Play with manipulating the energy body. And when the energy body opens up, you'll find that the emotional body can have an impact on the energy body. So if you're feeling sad one day, you're going to feel not necessarily a physicality of sadness, but you might feel a pressure in the heart or heaviness. Sometimes butterflies can be hot and cold right next to each other in the heart and in the stomach. They're temperatures. And we have perceptions that are holding those temperatures together. And if you could then just switch them around, put the heat in one place and the cold in the other, or just everything uniform, or just spread, or put a big heater on top of you and let it flow through the emptiness of your body. Play, enjoy this practice, and work with whatever experience you have until it's uniform, unified, field-like, energizing and calming. And then you can sort of develop it into a jhana from that sort of universal ground of experience. And presence is really a sense, and it's no different than as I wrote it. I don't know if you read the sign up, there was that question. It's really, if I could pick on you, Ben, because you're right in front of me, like if I said, who are you, Ben? Before you say I am and start defining it, with that first here-ness, it's almost indescribable, right? What is that? There's this sense of here-ness, right? That's the energetics I'm talking about. It's that primordial sense of presence, of here-ness. Before you even speak and start putting a story around, you start limiting it and circumscribing it. Well, I forget your age, 30, whatever. Born here and do this, and I have this goal, and you start cutting it up. But right there, this is what we're bringing into the room. This is what, is it time for the lunch, or do you have an...
Start 11 o'clock.
Oh, 11 o'clock? Okay, thank you, Monte. All right. So this is the sense of presence and energetics that I'm talking about. Did I overspeak? Oh, 10:45. Okay. Oh,
He's 15 minutes earlier.
what's that?
He's 15 minutes ahead of our schedule. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
At 11 instead of 11:15.
Oh, okay. We can still do 15 minutes of either silent or walking meditation. Can I just think whether there's one more important thing I want to say? There is a third body, but I don't want to confuse you, which is kind of like where spaciousness is. We call it the formless, arupa bhumi. So there's the kaya bhumi, which is physicality, science, what we know, which is important. And there's rupa, which is the felt sense of presence through the four elements that helps develop our wisdom, it helps develop our calm, connectivity, our relationality to friends, and the sangha, and wisdom. And then there's arupa, without form. And that is a sort of spaciousness in which the body, physicality, and the sort of rupa, the energetics can sort of arise and disappear in a sort of empty spaciousness with no sense of identification or clinging to any of that. And beyond that is nibbana. But so there is a sort of course through all this to awakening that I'm sort of pointing you as a sort of path, an alternative way that the Buddha gave to sort of look at the path of meditation and how it relates to the wisdom practice of awakening and how the two work together. Is there anything else? Like I said, this is something, I don't know what all your priors are, expectations, or what you don't know or need to know. It's best to have a Q&A for you to ingest and digest this experience today, and then maybe talk about it at the end of the day. I'm here for you. You can always write me if you think of it later today after we've closed. We can always talk about this practice together. Greg will give his experience in the afternoon and some tips on this practice, and we'll have more time to practice. Hear it from a different point of view, a different, way of talking about this practice. I'm thinking of all these things I could say, but of course I don't have time, and I hopefully said enough to get you interested in this practice, to show you its fundamental importance to the practice, and it's a joyful way of practicing and waking up in. It's not the crash and burn approach. It's a way to sustain yourself over the long term through the practice and to support others. So I hope this was useful to you, and you can take something that I said today to heart and practice with it. Thank you. So we'll have a